Alright, Earthlings, welcome back to the Thundering Dice channel with your boys, the Thundering Dice Brothers, and we're diving back into Lore vs. Story for Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 4, the midpoint of the season where, since last episode, things have happened. This episode, things continue to happen, and I'm assuming we're building up to some final battle around Eregion, Celebrimbor, Sauron. They're all trying to find their way there. They find their way blocked by orcs and ents. Gandalf / the stranger with his two halfling companions meet Tom Bombadil, Tolkien's personification of nature or something, I suppose, back in the day. Never really clear, from my understanding, what Tom Bombadil is. But I don't think he has much of a direct hand in fighting Sauron or the Rings of Power, so his role in a show called The Rings of Power seems unclear.
It is very unclear.
We get to see an Entwife, which is kind of special, I guess, considering the fact that by the time we pick up the story in Lord of the Rings, the Entwives have already been destroyed by Sauron.
Yes.
So we get to see some Entwife action. They seem properly disturbed by the orcs coming through and breaking, hacking, burning. You know, lots of very obvious, like, they took their cues from the Ents in Lord of the Rings. And that's fine, because the Ents in Lord of the Rings, Treebeard specifically, was pretty dope, so I'm okay with that. It just seems like a pointless side quest again. I mean, now, if I were a character in an RPG game, this would be a fun side quest.
Yes.
Team up with Gandalf and, you know, find Tom Bombadil. You know, sweet. EXP and meet Tom Bombadil, fantastic. Except that we're not playing an RPG. This is supposed to be a story told about the Rings of Power, and we're not Rings of Powering it up very much. Galadriel gives up her ring. I'm sure Elrond's not going to put it on, though, because he has odd feelings about it. Now, when Celebrimbor wears it, you know, he's a wise old Círdan. When he wears it, I'll take his advice. When Galadriel wears it, oh, hell no.
I'll
feisty and
bitch you
upstanding.
out.
Yeah, so that's getting pretty tiring.
Yeah, the insufferability. I mean, like, he goes from being smart to, nah, I don't like anything you say, and I will refuse to listen to you, and if it's one idea from either you listening to that ring, harump, and I will send you back in chains, you know, smacking your ass with a thatch.
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant. Yeah, he's rather insufferable from the get-go in this episode. Even if you, like, just want to take the ring away from it, dude, she is still way older than you, and you should have a modicum. I mean, like, I know she's displayed lots of poor judgment in Season 1, but you should still somewhat have a modicum of respect for anything that she says, because she is thousands of years older than you. She has seen a lot more shit. She might have an idea that you don't. Even if it comes from the ring, you should still maybe give it a tiny bit of credence before dismissing it out of hand.
And I know this is not anything like the One Ring, but a ring of power, just to give it up freely like that and then sacrifice yourself in either protection of the ring or protection of your company, still takes a bit of fortitude of will to give it up and then throw yourself back in the fire, knowing that you have a couple options there. You're gonna die or you get captured. You're not gonna escape.
Yeah, it is, it's easier for it's easier for an elf to give up a ring of power than it is a man or a dwarf, especially a dwarf, because they'll have different reasons for keeping it. But yeah, like, that should alone, I mean, like, he should be like, oh, okay, so you can give it up freely. That's a positive side. And then you also see an arrow shaft get healed, which is a little janky, because it's like, I mean, like, the rings, you know, I mean, like, the Elven Rings, one of the attributes is healing, but it's never specifically said, yes, I can place my hand on you and basically Ray Palpatine it up. So that one's kind of, I don't really like that part, but whatever. She gives it up, and then does a stupid battle scene with a bow and arrow once again, whilst never drawing her sword. They're tactically, once again, when you're far enough away, bow and arrow, it's a ranged weapon. Oh, it's bloody brilliant. But when you're facing a company of orcs on horseback, just take the sword out.
Yeah, they rely way too much on Legolas-style fighting, and I always thought Legolas' style of fighting was really janky and dumb and inefficient in Lord of the Rings, but they at least do a good enough job making sure that he's fairly ranged most of the time. He's using his bow, and then he has a short knife sword things, that he uses as well. And every once in a while, he does cool things with an arrow, like stab an orc through the eye to kill it. Now, they took this and turned it up to 11, Spinal Tap style, and all we get is, apparently the elves basically just fight with bows, or any of the hero elves fight with bows. Doesn't matter if you're 2 inches away or if you're 200 yards away. You just use your bow for everything, which it's dumb, it's stupid, it's not efficient, it looks clunky, it makes the fight scenes less believable, especially when you consider that everyone has a fucking sword already.
Yeah. And when you're crowded around with orcs and you're wielding your bow and arrow, there's no incentive for the orcs not to bum rush you because they're not afraid of getting stabbed by a sword. They're
and
like,
yet,
all right, so one, yeah, and yet they just, you know, I mean, like, I know orcs are cowards, but she's only one elf here. So.
It's so nice of them to take turns attacking her instead of, you know, bum rushing her so that she can pick and choose who she's going to stab with an arrow, shoot with an arrow, or beat with a chain.
Yeah, yeah. And that horse that she commandeers is rather calm around orcs, and she does not use it to the proper effect that you can use on horseback.
I think she could have charged straight out of that circle of orcs right there. They're only one deep.
But then you get that magic, whatever, the chain to rip her off the thing that you have no idea who threw it, who's strong enough to do it. I mean, I kind of assume Adar did it, but still though, like if you don't show it and just suddenly off horse, now down on the ground. Oh, let's grab my bow and arrow. Adar grabs the flaming arrowhead and says, "Oh, may the light shine on our meeting, Lady Galadriel." It's like, really? Yeah, like that. Yeah, the whole.
It's so conveniently dramatic too. Like this show is so good at having drama-filled moments. And I don't mean drama like interpersonal drama. I mean characters enter at specific times as almost like it's planned. They enter in dramatic ways, like at the drop of a word, suddenly a door breaks open, or conveniently at this time, the characters that need to walk in to deliver a dramatic speech or make a dramatic gesture do come in that way. It's all very theatrical. It's all very staged. Now, if this were a play in 40 acts, maybe I could understand it. But this isn't really... It feels too theatrical, so it almost feels like it should be a play, and yet it's far too thematic, it's far too cinematic to bill itself as anything but an epic adventure quest.
Yeah.
And they really, really reinforce that with these really long, wide panning shots that kind of made Lord of the Rings cinematography famous. I know they need to have as many callbacks, including to cinematography, including to music. You know, the call out of the French horn and stuff like that. That's all very Howard Shore-esque. It's all very Lord of the Rings-esque. I get it. You need to remind me that it's Lord of the Rings because in no way else is it Lord of the Rings.
But you can, like, pepper this in really subtly, maybe like once an episode, not in every freaking scene, because you have the music, you have the panoramic shots, you have the Barrow-down poem that Gollum speaks in Lord of the Rings. It's just like constantly through. You have more freaking Stoors now. It's just constantly thrown into your face, and you just like. This story is supposed to be its own fucking story. Yeah, it has a link to Lord of the Rings, but like, can it have any type of originality at all?
Yeah, because truth be told, the Harfoots and the Stoors and Gandalf contribute zero right now to this story. And now I understand that Gandalf is an Istar, and he comes with, you know, after Saruman and whatever, with some other blue wizards, and they're there ostensibly to fight Sauron, right, in the beginning? Like, that is kind of why they're sent.
Yeah, at the beginning of the Third Age,
yes.
Not the Second Age.
Which is, so yeah, they have no place being here yet. So it really is just like, hey, here's a side quest that's non-canon. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to find Tom Bombadil and learn how to use your magic and meet Gandalf and stuff. Like, cool, that would be great, like I said, for maybe a Shadow of Mordor RPG set in some like alternate timeline, or where time doesn't matter and you're jumping around time periods because you're a wraith. Could be cool shit, but again, that's not what we're going for here. Obviously, this is a TV show meant to tell a linear story.
Yeah, very linear story, and it is very unlinear, because like the Barrow-downs, whilst there is reference to the Barrow-downs somewhere in the First Age, the chief reasons we know about the Barrow-downs and the Barrow-wights are specifically the Third Age and Angmar. Angmar sends evil spirits into the burial places of Rudar to stir up trouble in one of the three remaining kingdoms of Arnor. At this point, Elendil is dead, Isildur is dead, Anarion is dead. The Northern Kingdom is shattered into three separate kingdoms. You have Arthedain, Cardalin, and Rudar, all in the same neighborhood, all vying for power. Rudar is the worst of the ones. They're like the more backwater of the three kingdoms. So Angmar easily defeats them, and then curses kind of the land with the Barrow-downs. And then you have a boatload of other subterfuge with Cardalin and Arthedain that Angmar slowly wins at halfway through the Third Age. So like you're bringing in these things way farther, way farther. Where depending on where you are in the story, like if you're talking about like when the Rings of Power are getting forged, then you're actually talking a literal age. I mean, like 3,000 to 3,500 years after the last Rings of Power are made, does this story start happening with the Barrow-wights. So bringing them in there really serves absolutely no purpose. I mean, it's a pathetic member berry, and it's just kind of like it's like a weird callback that you just don't really understand. The Harfoots and the Stoors, being there too is kind of a strange phenomenon, because like whilst they're mentioned in the appendages, it's mentioned about like when the Stoors arrive at certain locations, and like the Harfoots too, going slowly like their migration west to the sea. So why they're even there in the first place too, just to serve like the purpose that the plot needs it to with Gandalf and the Dark Wizard. I mean, like if you wanted to play that card, yeah, sure, whatever, but obviously it doesn't work. So I'm just not. I just don't freaking get like that whole part of it.
Yeah. So speaking of the Dark Wizard, all right. So as we were watching it, I was like, okay, let's think about this. Who do I think the Dark Wizard might be? Because they're full of all we know is member berries. So who could be a good member berry for that? And there's the Blue Wizard angle I thought of, because as far as I know, there's not a whole lot of specific knowledge about what the Blue Wizards end up getting up to. They might have formed some cults of personality or magic cults, or they may have joined Sauron, or things beyond that. But then there's also Saruman. Now, this is probably wildly speculative, but Saruman arrives before Gandalf.
Yeah.
Dark Wizard here is before Gandalf. He's an Istar, apparently, so that tracks to be a wizard for sure. And is there a way that he is Saruman? Gandalf ends up having to fight and defeat him and quote-unquote bring him back to the light, but he's already set on the path to join Sauron 3,000 years in the future.
That would be extra stupid if they wanted to follow that train of thought, but if I remember correctly, the showrunners did say that it isn't Saruman. They didn't say who it is. So it's definitely one of the two blues, because that's the only two, because like the two blues are the ones that are unaccounted for in the East. We know very few things about them. I mean, there are multiple names for them too, and some of them are obscure, where you're just like, all right, cool, this is not, it's canon, but we're taking it on a grain of salt. And Tolkien gave us very little straight answers, like, yeah, either they joined with Sauron, made magic cults, and sort of lost their way to rival Sauron or to hinder him. It's like there isn't a clear answer, but it's definitely one of the blues. I mean, like, I don't know that for sure, but I'd stake money on it, because it's the only thing that makes sense.
Okay, well, at least it's not Saruman, because I was like,
it'd be extra dumb trying to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring Saruman back into the light, and then he'll fall again. Like,
yeah,
really.
yeah. And so, well, for an episode in a show called The Rings of Power, this was just one big side quest episode. So we've got talking about some characters that are just continue to be boring and frustrating. Tuvok the Elf.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but he is the flattest, most stoic, most boring elf character to ever grace a main character screen.
Yeah.
He's just dull. He doesn't show very much emotion. He's like a
just
Vulcan.
there.
He's like a Vulcan, and it's really kind of frustrating. And I know just because he has pointy ears doesn't make him a Vulcan, just because he's black doesn't make him Tuvok, but if he walks like a duck and talks like a duck and doesn't have emotions like a Vulcan duck, then maybe it's a Vulcan. Maybe they got their genres cross-spliced a little bit. So from here on out, he shall be known as
Tuvok the Elf.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty useless. Istrid and Isildur's weird, like, wannabe love triangle, but I have a fiance out there, he might be alive. Well, who knows, we might find him, we might not. Some tender moments, oh no, wait, she has the mark of Adar and she self-burned herself, so she is a wild man,
and then she's trying to disguise it, so she's a spy.
Yeah, but like, so I don't know, maybe we can't trust her. Then she saved our life from the weird-ass slug creature that sucked us down in
the thing that lives in the deep places of the earth. Speaking of callbacks to the movie,
yeah, and that
there
is
are fouler things than orcs
that
inhabit the deep places of the earth.
Yeah, and that little wannabe, whatever the hell that lizard slug thing is definitely not one of what Tolkien was calling the nameless things, because that's like the Watcher in the water. That's the thing that lives beneath the misty mountains that have been gnawing on the bones of the earth for frickin' ages, because Morgoth was so disgusted by them that he raised the Misty Mountains. It's like, oh, fuck that shit, I want you gone.
Even Morgoth was like,
Yeah, so, like those, like, they're real nasty creatures, not that, like, weird slug thing.
Which comes out of the ground with no purpose but to create another fight scene.
And then slides back into the ground after they cut their way out of it. In an instant, in 5 frames, it's there, and then just suddenly all the way gone.
And then there's that dumb joke that it's dinner.
Dinner.
Like, why would you want to eat that? I can't imagine it's good for you.
Yeah, it's probably some nasty-ass foul meat.
Yeah, if you're already saying that there's something, evil lurking in the deep places of the earth, evil, sketchy Morgoth creatures are not edible, I don't think. Like, would you want to eat an orc?
Yeah, no, exactly. You would not. I wouldn't want to eat an orc. They're nasty fucking creatures. In the same respect, I guess I probably wouldn't want to eat a Balrog, too, because it seems like...
A bit fiery.
Yeah, a bit fiery and something wrong. You like eating complete raw pepper, but, on a gigantic woolly mammoth scale.
So, once again, we're left with the inevitable conclusion that the show doesn't know where it's going. I mean, it's obviously pointing towards a battle.
Yeah.
And they're speedrunning to the battle because somehow halfway through season 2 they decided they figured out where they were going to go and they're going to have a battle for Eregion.
Yeah.
And Sauron was going to reveal himself to everybody, and this is how the War of Power, I guess, is going to start.
No.
Okay, never mind. Well, okay, fine. This is a mini battle on the way to the War of Power, I suppose. Who knows?
Technically, it would be the War of the Rings.
War of the Rings,
yes. The War of Power is when the Valar attack Morgoth's stronghold at the end of the first
That's
age.
right. That's already happened. That's right, because Morgoth's been defeated.
Yeah. So
pardon my terminology. I'm learning.
Yeah, so the next war that comes is the War of the Elves, between the Elves and Sauron.
Okay, so it's going to start in Eregion.
Yes, which actually does work, because that is how the War of the Elves starts.
And we have an Anatar there who's crafting stuff. So some things are sort of happening. The Stoors do become hobbits. We know that, but
but just
completely pointless to the story because they're not going to have anything to do with the rings. I mean, honestly, the hobbits don't have anything to do with the world. Even in the Lord of the Rings, you have a few hobbits that make a difference, but hobbits as a race are just chilling and they get taken advantage of and they can't rise up themselves. They don't have the gumption without Merry and Pippin and Sam and Frodo, not lesser so Frodo, but definitely Merry and Pippin at least, to help them rise up and fight back.
Yeah.
So just having them here, they're not going to have any bearing in the War of the Ring, not these specific hobbits. I don't think Gandalf needs to learn to love hobbits to take care of them and find their strength and hidden power and quietness and quickness and stuff. I mean, these are all things that can happen after. And Gandalf has a ton of time to get to know the hobbits after all of this stuff happens.
Yeah, exactly. And in the same respect that Tom Bombadil doesn't need to be there, because Gandalf's met Bombadil before. So you can be like, yeah, sure, they quote unquote know each other, not in this respect, but
and the fact that Tom Bombadil is going to teach him how to be a wizard.
Yeah, that really makes no sense, because Bombadil is very much not a teacher. He's a whatever you want to classify Bombadil as.
He is eldest.
Even Tolkien actually didn't have a real good answer for what Bombadil is. He just is.
Yeah.
In the same respect that actually no. He's pretty singular in this respect. I mean, I guess Goldenberry might be the second one. Be like, who is she?
I love that Gandalf was like, yeah, Tom Bombadil could take the ring and be uncorrupted by it, but he would just forget about it because it doesn't matter to him.
Yeah, exactly. So why does he give a crap about Sauron rising and the Dark Wizard?
And so Gandalf is now being pointed to a battle between Sauron and the Dark Wizard. He has to stand against both.
Yeah, because if those two flames combine, the fire will rage over Middle Earth.
And shouldn't we have multiple wizards now? Shouldn't Saruman actually be here technically?
Yes.
Because Saruman should have already gotten there, and if they're all sent there to fight Sauron, then they're here early.
Yeah, if you have Gandalf and one of the blues, Saruman is already there, and so is Radagast. So why aren't
even all?
Why don't you just bring in every single one?
Well, because that's too many characters. We already have too many superfluous characters. And then the heavy-handed shoo-ins of romance. It's so painfully heavy-handed.
Like Poppy and Nobody, whatever that idiot's name is, was just so she just instantly sees him and then that smile and you just watch it and you're like, what the fuck?
I just gotta audibly groan every time I see that. And then you've got
Estrid and Isildur's
yes,
weirdness.
exactly. They're like, oh, they'll never forgive me, and I can forgive you. And then her husband comes back, and I love you so much. And
now it's a love triangle, and yay.
And we've got orcs with families who are like paternal and maternal around their children, which I don't know for certain that the orcs don't have a dedicated family unit, you know, the nuclear family. I don't know for certain that the orcs don't have a great, you know, developing society. But I'm like 99% sure that the orcs weren't there to have a society. We're not supposed to like feel a human connection with the orcs. The orcs are just minions of the Dark Ones to be feared and killed and loathed, and like they should be relegated to the shadows and, you know, buried under mountains.
Yeah, you don't need
these are not good people.
Try to humanize the enemy. It really makes no sense, because I mean, like,
this enemy specifically.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We're not talking about a real life enemy. Like, you know, this is a part of history, and you're trying to find the human motivations behind Japanese conquest of China or anything like that.
Or as like a Tolkien reference, like Min, the petty dwarf, is an enemy and a friend at the same time, depending on which person you're talking to.
Right.
But orcs are just evil. Like there's no redeeming quality on. And yeah, exactly.
They're not a natural
mockery.
thing.
Yeah, they're a mockery. They are meant to be a vile race. Morgoth did took elves and twisted them to the exact opposite of what an elf is.
So let's not try to make ourselves sympathetic with Adar and his people. We don't need to have anything in common with them. We don't need to sympathize with them. They're a tool. You don't sympathize with the sword that Sauron wields because it was forged in the same way that regular swords were.
Yeah, you don't sympathize with the One Ring in the same way that you sympathize with the 3 elven rings.
Exactly. No, these are tools and machinations made by twisted and evil creatures.
Yeah.
Tolkien is very, very clear what good and evil are.
Yeah.
And the orcs don't need to be humanized. We don't need Adar to create a society, family units. They're the bad guys. Sauron's the bad guy. Maybe make Sauron more of a bad guy. Fuck off, Adar. We don't care about you. The orcs are your tool, Sauron. You will use them, and we will hate them, and we will hate you. But we want to be sympathetic towards people like Galadriel and the heroes.
Yeah.
We don't want to be exasperated by them constantly. We don't want to be exasperated by these ridiculous fights that don't make any sense. Because I love an action sequence as much as the next person. But you know what really, really wouldn't have worked? Aragorn, like, fighting a giant troll. Oh, wait, for the button. They did do that. No, you know, that part doesn't work. It's a terribly painful battle scene that feels unnecessary and shoehorned in, because we don't need to have any more, like, pressure to feel sympathy for Aragorn.
Yeah.
And feel fear for Aragorn. Like, we feel for all of humanity at that point. Aragorn has an amazing speech for Frodo and goes and charges them and leads it. And now you see the golden shining helmets and armor of Gondor and men against the dark, dull blacks and browns of the orcs encircling them. You don't need any more than that.
No, it's very...
And so when you have these ridiculous fight scenes, like a cool fight scene is cool. A ridiculous over-the-top fight scene might belong in John Wick, but not in Lord of the Rings. I can only suspend my disbelief so far.
No, you can only go so far. This episode as a whole was, I mean, very, very, it might be the worst episode.
It's certainly the most heavy-handed in, hey, look, here's a character you remember. Oh, here's a creature you remember. Oh, here's a poem that you remember. Here's a establishing shot that you might remember. Here's a haunting French horn note that you might remember.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the same key. Like, I heard that and I was like, God damn, it's beautiful. I really do like the music.
But
it's punching up to Lord of the Rings weight class, and unfortunately it's being dragged down by the subject that it is trying to frame.
Yeah, indeed.
So, in summation, side characters and side quests is the name of the game for this 4th episode, all leading towards a battle in Eregion between, let's see, I suppose a stunted Gandalf, a dark wizard who's probably a blue, and Sauron and Adar, who are not friends, but maybe they'll... Nope. Nope.
In order that you said it, no, yes, and yes.
Word. 50%'s not bad. You know, on a curve, C's get degrees. And with that note, thank you so much for joining us again on this episode of Lore vs. Story Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 4. We'll be back next week for Episode 5.
If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe down below. Check out our Reddit, check out our Patreon, and we will see you when the next full moon rises.